Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. This is the Windup SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show, the best college baseball show on the internet. We are here recapping and breaking down everything that took place in weekend number 9 in the Diamond, on the conference, if you will, what have you. An exciting weekend to talk about. We have some notable results, teams putting together their postseason resumes, whether it's top 8 national seeds, top 16 seeds, fighting for postseason bids. And we had one massive upset that we're going to discuss as well. Also, guys, of course, it is the final midweek. We're going to break that down, discuss, preview that. I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as always. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check us out via podcast or we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're powered by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU to get $200 in bonus bets today. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show. I am Chris Phillips. Joining me, as he always does, to help break down what happened in conference weekend number 9, as we have officially reached the final week, an upcoming weekend of the regular season. My good friend, as always, and dare I say, star of SportsCenter now, Harrison Fant joins the show. Harrison, appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations, my friend. In case those may have missed it, you had the big call this weekend in the Georgia Tech broadcast that made its way to the SportsCenter top 10. Congrats, my friend. What's going on?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Good to be here talking SEC baseball, of course, and thank you for that. It was super cool to hear my voice on ESPN and on SportsCenter. Shout out to a good friend Gary Streisky for that, for facilitating that, and obviously trying to get college baseball on TV and ESPN as much as possible. You know me, always trying to do that and pushing the envelope with that when I was working there, and obviously still now. But that was a special moment for me. I'm saving that one for sure, and definitely made my family proud.
Yeah, no, it was really cool, man. I actually tuned into a little bit of the Georgia Tech Louisville game when you texted us. I did see the near no-hitter, the first one.
Which one? Yeah,
the first one when the kid got down to the final strike, gave up the knock, hated it for him, but obviously Georgia Tech got the big win. That was a fun weekend for you. Georgia Tech looked really good. Obviously, we're kicking this thing off talking ACC baseball, but you had a fun weekend in Atlanta, my friend. So good for you.
A lot of baseball.
Yeah, great calls. You had 2 of them that were SportsCenter top 10 worthy, and I guess both made the SportsCenter top 10.
Yep.
Pretty good weekend.
We had defensive wedge gyms all over the place from both sides on both sides of the dugouts. Obviously, literally dugout to dugout, foul pole to foul pole. It was insane. It was a lot of fun. It was a great series. Got to call the entire series, and obviously get to call Coach Danny Hall's final home series and obviously final home regular season win. It was unbelievable. They did a huge honor and accolade for him. Just video boards. They had a ton of former players come out, and his mom came down, who hasn't seen him coach in since pre-COVID, I don't think. So that was special for sure. And, got to interview a big leaguer, big name, Georgia Tech Hall of Famer, and Mark Teixeira in the booth. Awesome experience to do that. And then, obviously Danny Hall and Dan McDonald, the Louisville head coach, during the games, and Danny Hall after the game. So super cool experience getting to do that on ACC Network. And what a series it was, though. But no, I know we're here to talk a lot of SEC ball, but I could go on and on for that. And, excited for that. And excited for postseason baseball across the board, not in just the SEC, but across the board.
Yeah, Harrison, I mentioned this past weekend had a postseason feel to it, and I think a lot of that is when you start seeing college baseball on ESPN2, ESPN, SEC Network, like the big channels. That's when the postseason is close, because that's finally when college baseball and obviously SEC baseball starts really getting its shine. On that note, again, Harrison, don't shed a tear quite yet. I know it's emotional. Final Monday show of the regular season for you and I. It's crazy. We've made it to this point, the final week of the regular season. Before we get all teary-eyed, let's look back at what happened over the weekend, conference weekend number 9, because it was a doozy yet again. As you like to say and I like to say, it always delivers. And we will start with the lone Thursday through Saturday series, Harrison. This series was wrapped up on Friday due to weather. They played the doubleheader. A lot of doubleheaders in the SEC this week on Friday because some bad weather in the Southeast. But it didn't matter because Auburn took care of South Carolina in a big way. They swept, including that Game 1 win 24-2. The final in that one. They pummel the Gamecocks from start to finish. You also had in between, Harrison, the wacky walk-off win in game 2 where South Carolina's pitcher, there's one out. They perform the squeeze play. Runner from third, obviously going home. He fields it and looks to first as if he's going to get the second out. The problem was it was a walk-off and it didn't matter. So that was kind of a microcosm of South Carolina struggles throughout this season. It was a historic weekend with the Gamecocks, Harrison, in all the worst ways. And we could just start rattling off most losses here, worst ERA here. And if you go search for this stuff, you can find it. Again, it's a long list, but essentially South Carolina staring down the worst season in their history as a program in the conference. But I think where we should be spending more of the time, Harrison, this Auburn team. They are scary, especially if they're swinging the bats like that. Now, they're going to face much better pitching staff. Let's call it for what it is. South Carolina is one of the worst in the conference. But this Auburn team, we've been talking about it for weeks, Omaha caliber. And I'll go ahead and throw this out here, by the way, Harrison. I'm going to surprise you and surprise many others. My latest SEC baseball power rankings, it is the Auburn Tigers, not the LSU Tigers, that I have number 1. It's about time we put some respect onto Auburn. They've earned this. I'm telling you, bro, we keep sleeping on them. Auburn flexing their muscles over the weekend. It's a good club Butch Thompson's got.
Whew. That was a bomb. I did not know you were going to be dropping today in the show, but this Auburn Tigers team is just so talented for sure. And obviously, we expected a sweep, I think, more so, at minimum, a series win from Auburn, hosting South Carolina, playing at home in front of Plainsman Park. And, playing a team in South Carolina that struggled immensely this season on just so many aspects of the game. But I think, obviously, the run production was there for Auburn. You win, you score, 46 runs. It's tied for their most 46 runs in a series, which was a program record. And they start with, they're 12-3, tying 1999 team for the most league wins at Plainsman Park in a single season for Auburn. I mean, one of Butch Thompson's best years head coaching at Auburn for sure. And, obviously just the bats were alive all series long for Auburn. Weirdly enough, how you said with the series being on Friday, obviously I guess has its ups and downs, I guess the boys can go have a good weekend for sure and, enjoy it and, relax a little bit, an extra day or two off, with especially next weekend series all starting on Thursday, right before the SEC tournament. But I was a little surprised about how the pitching staff went for Auburn. I know that's going to get overlooked a little bit more so than how loud the offenses was, clicking on all cylinders and, every single way for Auburn. But we've been raving about Sam Dutton's outings and just how he's pitched at such a high level against really good teams. And it was surprisingly not a great outing for him at all. 8 hits over 4 innings, 5 earned. He controlled the strike zone. He wasn't walking guys, but just leaving pitches over the zone that, South Carolina didn't miss necessarily. And, it's a good thing they swung it all weekend because they needed to, because, the starts they got outside of, was it Cam Tilley, I think, who went 5 innings, 1 earned, 2 hits. That was the best start. And I don't think either one of us would have said that Cam Tilley's going to go shove and be the best, have the best start for Auburn this weekend, just with how good Dutton has been pitching the past, month or two at least. So that was, I think, I don't want to say a concern, but just kind of an eye opener, kind of that caught my attention the most, I'd say, because we know the offensive production that Auburn can put out and that we kind of expected to put them out against a struggling pitching staff at South Carolina that, doesn't have guys that are just, dominant, lethal in the zone with just stuff that they can get anybody out with. And so I think that was, for me, I don't want to say maybe playing down to some competition, but just, I guess a down outing for several guys. So for me, that was the biggest takeaway, I think.
And they've been red hot too. It's going to even itself out at some point. Sam Dutton, I do agree with you. Obviously, again, he got touched up a little more than I expected in that first game in the doubleheader. Not something I worry about long term, but it was interesting. Harrison, crazy stat I want to throw out there at you. It goes to show how good Auburn's offense was, but also how terrible the South Carolina pitching staff was. And we're not here to obviously pile on South Carolina, but just a wild stat. They had one pitcher all weekend have an appearance where he did not give up a run. Every other pitcher gave up a run this weekend.
It was at some point.
Yes. Was it Merlot? Is that the name?
Yeah. I'll say
and he threw 15 pitches.
Ashton Crother, though, didn't give up any earned runs. He gave up 1 unearned.
Well, that's why I said runs. I agree with
So,
you. Yeah, earned runs. But
I
yeah,
mean,
it
still,
just goes to show, though, I mean, everybody on that South Carolina staff was facing some sort of adversity, some sort of action, what have you. Auburn just swinging a red hot stick all weekend. So, again, maybe you might look at it as an overreaction, what have you. My power rankings will drop later today, and I'll explain them obviously over the next 24 hours, what have you. But just at some point, man, you really got to give credit to Auburn, the way they're playing. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the SEC. They're not the most talented team in the conference, Harrison, but that doesn't mean they're not one of the best teams. Like, they have one of the best coaches in Butch Thompson. They've been to Omaha multiple times. They play hard. They play together. They play for each other. And it's more than just Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray that do damage, although Ike Irish is kind of the heart and soul of that club. I think we know that at this point. But it's so much more than that. I like this club a lot, dude. I like this club a lot. I think they're staring right in the barrel being a top 8 national seed. And
I think it's absolutely. I think they're almost a lock for a top 8 national seed at this point. It feels like. I mean, there's no doubt they're hosting a regional at Plainsman Park, and the crowd that they're going to get for sure. And I think Chris Rembert doesn't get enough credit that he deserves.
Dude, he had a monster weekend.
But just being in the leadoff spot for them and just producing at such a high level. I mean, I think he had double-digit RBIs in the series, which. Yes, they scored a ton of runs, but like as good as he is, like, I mean, the production, I think for him just gets overlooked because, he's in the leadoff spot. It's not a, I guess, huge production RBI role, but when you have, Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray behind him and you have, Eric, I'm going to try to pronounce it, Guevara. I mean, he had a monster weekend too. So it's like, it felt like you can't pitch around, any one of their starting 4 in the lineup, specifically those 4. So, it just adds to the depth. And, like you want to produce at the top of the lineup in a leadoff spot. Like I'll use an example, like Kyle Odes for Georgia Tech. It's just always on base or just, always, if a guy in the bottom of the order gets up and he comes on, it's like, he's going to probably drive him in. It's one of those things that like when you flip the lineup over, you have a power bat in the leadoff spot that, Chris Rembert fills that role so well. And, is a huge piece for Auburn's lineup.
And I'll say this, Harrison, because I know you were shocked. In my defense, Auburn did get swept by Texas. That was a different Texas team. They got swept by Georgia. That was in late March, though. It was at Foley. We put that on a neutral site. Who knows? This is also a team that swept LSU. So, I mean.
At Plainsman Park.
It was at Plainsman. I understand. But still, just saying, yeah, Auburn's for real. Do not be surprised. We told you here in the month of May, early May, if you will, don't be surprised if Auburn's in Omaha, if they're one of those few SEC teams that do make it out there to the promised land. So, anyways, that being said, Harrison, let's keep it moving. The series of the weekend, Friday through Sunday series, obviously, but the series of the weekend was at Alex Box Stadium, the LSU Tigers and the Arkansas Razorbacks. And who knew Alex Box magic strikes yet again. There's not a better team in the country, Harrison, as the game starts around 9:55 Central Time. Then the LSU Tigers. Scary, by the way, scary. The walk-off against Arkansas happens at 1:17 a.m. The walk-off against Tennessee happened at 1:17 a.m. I don't know how you script that. I don't know how that works out. That is some Bayou voodoo beyond anything we are familiar with.
Bayou voodoo is real for sure. And
it's very
I'll sum it up like this, Chris. You do not want to play LSU after midnight in the box. Jay Johnson said it best, quote, "We're the best team in America at 1 a.m."
And I think that's very fair. I don't know how many other teams have even played at 1 a.m., but no, he's got a very good point. You don't want to play in that place past the midnight hour. It's the witching hour there in Baton Rouge.
Especially the crowd that they get that stays around that late in the night and that early in the morning. It's second to none, I think, in college baseball.
Yeah, no, it's and it was the reason one of the biggest reasons you and I picked LSU to win this series, being at Alex Box. Weird things happen, and typically the Tigers are winning. That's what happens. They take 2 or 3. Harrison, we can get into this either now or later in the show as well, because I know we'll kind of give our thoughts on the top 25. LSU is the new number 1 team in the country after they take 2 out of 3. Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, that 1-2 punch, man. I mean, it's as good as any in college baseball. Thankfully, Cade Anderson is fine. He goes out in game 1. I know LSU fans are freaking out. Is he okay? Had the cramp. You ever experienced a hand cramp, Harrison, like he had? That was a new one.
Not a full hand cramp, but like a thumb maybe, like at the end of the afternoon, I guess an hour or so, maybe the end of an outing.
That was interesting.
More so just like fatigue kind of cramp. If anything, that's what it was. I mean, it was 9th pitch of the outing. So I get that, but it felt like a full hand cramp for him, which, I noticed immediately when he like turned around, was like kind of grimacing and like shaking and flexing his hand. I'm like, what's up with his hand? I was like, there's no way he has a blister or anything. Like I was thinking blister. I was like, he doesn't do that with his whole hand if it's a blister, you pick at one finger maybe, but definitely good news for LSU. And like you said, I think they're the best 1-2 duo Friday, Saturday.
Dude, Ianson was nasty
in college baseball right now. And they're doing it at the highest and most consistent level in the country. Week in, week out, top 25 team, top 10 team. Doesn't matter who they're facing, Chris. They're doing it at home, on the road. Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson are the best 1-2 punch in college baseball right now. And I think the most consistent and best over the course of the college baseball season so far.
And I think that's fair to say when you watch him pitch. Again, thank goodness we got good news on Cade Anderson. He should be good to go. I'd imagine he will pitch this week. I mean, for a cramp, I think he should be fine. The bats come alive. Also, Harrison in a big way for LSU. I think that's a really encouraging sign because we kept asking the question, is LSU going to be able to swing it? I talked about the approach was a big thing I wanted to see. I mean, that Game 2 win alone, I think, should make you feel really, really good if you're a fan of the Tigers. Jake Brown comes alive with a few bombs. Ethan Fry, I mean, the weekend that he had. Obviously, you have the walk-off on Friday night where Bear Jones scores on the tag-up, the sack fly, if you will, from third base. What he does carrying into Saturday. Stephen Milam kind of came out of his slump on Sunday, which I think is a good sign. You had Derek Curiel on Friday, had a big weekend as well. And then from the Arkansas perspective, my mindset doesn't really change on Arkansas, Harrison, all that much. You went into a really tough place to play, and you lost 2 out of 3. I will say this. Kudos to the Razorbacks for actually responding the right way and going out and winning that Sunday game. We talk about it all the time. It's still a prize true at this time of the year. It's the sweeps that throw your season one way or the other. When you go in a series like this, yes, you'd like to win, but I mean, hey, you're able to steal a game. It's not the worst case scenario. I do give Arkansas credit for bouncing back the right way. I know there's some LSU folks out there who have some bullpen concerns. I think it's overstated a little bit about LSU's bullpen. I mean, I think everybody's got some bullpen concerns. If we're being honest, you can't trust a bullpen for anything, it seems like, in college baseball. But either way, Arkansas does bounce back in Game 3. Harrison, your thoughts as a whole on this series? LSU, I don't want to say doing exactly what we thought they would do, but there were moments in the series where I'm like, this is why we pick. I mean, I even posted on social media, this is why you go LSU at home. They find ways to win, one of the best teams in the country on their home field.
There's winning on the road in the SEC, and then there's winning at Alex Box Stadium. Two completely different things, especially when the game starts, like you said, almost at 10 o'clock at night, it ends well after midnight and 1 a.m. I mean, it's one of the toughest places to play in college baseball for a reason, and one of the most passionate fan bases in college baseball. The history, just the dedication to baseball that LSU fans have it's unmatched. I think it's so consistent through the years and just decades and generations of LSU families as well. And this is, I think, just such a unique team for LSU, just with how they don't rely on the home run ball that we talk about all the time. Just their doubles machine, and they'll pop home runs. And, I think they have a higher floor of home runs, but a lower ceiling, if that makes sense. Just because they rely, less on it than it feels like we've seen other LSU teams. But when you get the 1-2 punch like Anderson and Ianson, and you're playing at home, and, you're just able to drive and runs with a lot of veterans in the lineup, like Stephen Milam, Jared Jones, and you said Ethan Fry had a big series. You have several guys that have just huge series. And, the biggest thing was that the clutch hits for LSU, but they left less runners on base throughout the series than Arkansas. And you got to give credit to Arkansas for sure, because they went in the box and I think gave them a very tough task. And you think about it, Chris, after that Game 3, looking back, they got walked off in Game 1. That's how close they were to winning the series at Alex Box. And that's with the Game 2 struggles that Gage Wood had, just the 3 home runs he gave up, 2 of them, he was ahead in the count on. That just, I think, really kind of turned his outing and just kind of shaped Game 2 into what it was, and then the bullpen behind him getting shelled and just, no slowing down from the LSU lineup against Arkansas's bullpen. So, and Ianson, like you said, obviously dominated in every part of the zone. It felt like electric outing from him again. He left the bases loaded, which I think was a turning point or just a momentum boost for him in the LSU team. In the top of the third, he left the bases loaded. I was like, yeah, he's on one today, right? Like this Arkansas lineup, I don't like, that was maybe their best opportunity. At the time, I was like, they might not get a chance like that again in this game against an arm like Ianson. So obviously, Game 3, Case and Evans get shelled pretty well, and just obviously, you know, we've seen him had electric starts. We've seen him electric out of the bullpen. We've seen him struggle out of, you know, the bullpen and struggling to start now here. And Chase Shores just, you know, come and pick up the slack. I think just the depth that they have of arms that can, you know, you can start Chase Shores, you can put him in the bullpen, you can go long, short, whatever it is. You can do the same thing with Case and Evans. One of them is, you know, they're not all going to pitch bad. They're not all going to pitch bad at the same time, Chris. And, you know, I think there's more likely a chance that both of them shove in the same game than both of them, you know, struggle. And Chase Shores really picked it up. And now I'm still super bullish on him. I think he's a phenomenal talent. He's obviously a monster, because I don't know if you know how big he is. He's like
6'8", right?
6'8", 245.
Yeah.
That's a freaking
he's a large human.
Yeah. So that was the thing. It's Evans left some pitches up over the plate that Arkansas didn't miss, and that we expect him not to miss. But, you know, the way that they limited Arkansas's offense production, I mean, the Aloy brothers felt like they almost had a silent weekend. You know, obviously, you know, the one pop that they had, but like it just felt like you eliminate them. It's like, all right, you know, the production goes down obviously because they're in the core of the lineup, but it's like you give them less opportunities to hit with runners on. And I think that was the biggest, I think, difference in, you know, eliminating as much offensive production for them as possible, is, you know, having a quiet weekend from the Aloy brothers. So I was really impressed, I think, with LSU, with how they handled and approached Arkansas's lineup, just using all their pitches in all parts of the zone. And I say that in some untraditional ways. You see some, you know, elevated sliders, elevated curveballs, stuff like that, but then you're changing eye levels up and down, in and out with every single pitch in their arsenal. And they did a really good job of executing that in the zone, but also expanding the zone. So Arkansas is chasing a lot of their pitches. So that was a big thing for me. I mean, and LSU had chances in game 3 too. I mean, they left the bases loaded in the third themselves. They left 11 guys on. Arkansas left 12 on, but, you know, they just had, you know, more timely hitting in game 3. So, I mean, game 3, you think about it, LSU wasn't that far as much as the score may think, but I mean, I thought it was an entertaining series nonetheless. And, you know, you get the Arkansas bullpen that was night and day difference from game 2 to game 3, because everyone got shelled in game 2, and then game 3, everyone locked it down. So that was really impressive, just to kind of respond in that fashion overnight on the road in the box against LSU. So that was impressive for me. So I'm not down on Arkansas at all.
No, I think it was just a series that it was good on good. And, you know, if that series is at the Hog Pen, who knows? But it wasn't. It was at Alex Box.
Yeah, and if it's not after midnight, you never know.
You never know. So, I will say this because I know there's some LSU fans that still have like bullpen concerns or maybe pitching depth concerns or what have you.
Everyone has their go-to.
I mean, you gave up 14 runs to maybe the best lineup in the conference over 3 games. So, I mean, I think you had a good weekend on the bump. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, not a whole lot to complain about. You took 2 of 3. That was the goal. I think you've definitely got to keep Jake Brown and Ethan Fry in the lineup on a consistent basis. I know those guys have been
Brown had a really good weekend.
Really good weekend. Those guys have been kind of plug and play guys. They've shuffled some different guys out. You got to ride the hot hand, and both have got to be in the lineup. But yeah, I think both of these teams, I think you and I would both agree, Harrison, the biggest takeaway from this weekend, this was 2 Omaha caliber teams battling it out. One had the home field advantage. The other didn't. LSU took advantage. And I'll tell you this, LSU fans, what should give you a lot of confidence, think about this. And I know you're going to probably poke some holes in this, Harrison, and that's fine, because the whole what if, what could have happened, whatever. Dude, you have beaten Zach Root and Liam Doyle in your last 2 home Friday night games. I mean, you've beaten some big, and I know it wasn't, you know, there was other bullpen, but like, and you walked it off. But I'm just saying, like, that gives you a lot of confidence. Like, we can go out there and beat anybody. Like, there's not a pitcher in the country we cannot go toe-to-toe with and beat, especially if they're going to be on our home field, which, I mean, LSU's all but a lock for a top 8 national seed at this point. I would call them a lock for a top 8 national seed. You're going to be at home. So I think that gives you a lot of confidence as well. Us being on our home field in the postseason, which is what matters in Baton Rouge. This isn't about winning the regular season SEC title or winning the SEC tournament. Let's call it for what it is. It's about, do they get to Omaha? Do they compete for a national championship? The path there, dude, you've beaten the best of the best on your home field.
The path to Omaha for LSU runs through Alex Box.
Yeah. I mean, you got to like your chances. Again, we'll talk more about that when we get there, but their chances with them being at home. But I think as a club, it gives you a lot of confidence. The pitcher,
especially Chris, responding and beating this, you know, most talented and I think most complete team that you and I both have said, you know, recently in Arkansas, after losing at A&M a series, and what that has looked like, I guess now, and we'll get into that more for A&M, but like, obviously it felt like a different A&M team in that series against LSU. But I think just responding like that, let alone playing at home, was huge for them. And, the momentum boost they needed after kind of a reality check or just kind of a wall they ran into at College Station against Texas A&M. So high hopes and, obviously expectations and for the LSU, faithful and fans of the program and the program itself, because they know the standard there, and the standard's, Omaha.
Yeah, great bounce back weekend after the College Station weekend. LSU coming into form at the right time. And again, Harrison, you and I agree. Arkansas is going to be right there to be dealt with by everyone in college baseball when we get to the postseason. Let's go, Harrison, to Rocky Top, where Vanderbilt, the Vandy boys, goes into Knoxville and takes 2 of 3. First time since 2021. They've taken a series at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and we can now make it 3 straight series losses for Tennessee. They have now lost 5 of their last 6 series. The Vols are officially reeling, and Vandy, all of a sudden, Harrison, I mean, you're talking about a top 8 national seed for the Vandy boys, the way they've been playing of late. Yours truly got very well acquainted with the Tennessee fan base over this weekend, and I want to say, by the way, it's nothing but love for the Vols. Your boy had a baseball take. It is what it is. We don't have to rehash it or dive deep back into it, but a lot of theatrics over the weekend. It's Tennessee. A lot of emotion. You had Andrew Fisher jawing at the entire Vandy infield. You had Ethan McIlvain yelling at the dugout of Tennessee. You had the post-game scuffle. I call it a scuffle, but the benches clear in Game 3 after the series is over. Anybody who out there, by the way, Harrison, because I know some on each side will say, this isn't a rivalry. We dominate, blah, blah, blah. This is a rivalry. There's a lot of hatred from both sides. A lot of different ways we can go here, Harrison. Obviously, I want to give Vanderbilt their flowers and give them a lot of credit because, again, I saw them in Nashville. It was that end of March, and loved the pitching staff, loved the defense. I just didn't know if they had enough in the tank offensively. Dude, the way they have caught fire here of late, and we're talking about them being a top 8 national seed, is not a conversation, Harrison, I expected to have. So kudos to them. But my goodness, Harrison, Tennessee, I mean, we're talking about a team that may very well fall out of a hosting bid. They may be going on the road this postseason. It is wild to see. Your thoughts, because, again, I know you're one that you went up there over the fall, obviously talked to Tony V, talked to Inslee. I'll say this. It's wild to see them fall the way they have, but I'm not totally shocked. I'm not totally shocked from the standpoint of having to replace what you had to replace last year. And I mentioned it. I didn't know who's going to step up and be that leader in the clubhouse. You and I thought Tennessee would bounce back. They do not. Vandy puts it to them, punches them in the face, and takes 2 or 3 on their field. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was up there obviously for opening weekend too, and just the expectations, energy coming off of that, opening weekend of the season for Tennessee. And it's one of those things like this, they've created a new standard in Knoxville, and that standard is, hosting supers, I think, minimum reaching super regionals and getting back to Omaha. And obviously that's the mindset and direction of the program. And, this is absolutely a rivalry. I don't care what either one of the, teams or fans say. There's absolutely a rivalry. And you could say Vanderbilt kind of has the rivalry, I think, as a, macro perspective. They've won 2 national championships, the past 10 years. Tennessee won, finally won one. I think it's just such an evenly matched rivalry and kind of 2 completely different ball clubs, right? Kind of old school versus new school, Chris. And that was kind of the, I think, exciting thing to watch about this series, just with Tim Corbin, the old school coach he is, and Tony Vitello, kind of the new school, new age, new blood that he is, and just how the roster construction, Vanderbilt relies on elite starting pitching and, really good bullpen arms, some timely hitting, clean defense, but not a ton of hitting. They love that, 3-2 ball game, right? Even though they did lose a 3-2 ball game, I will say. But Tennessee, loud arms. I think
bad defense. Bad defense is part of who they are this year. Horrific defense.
But generally, yes.
It cost them in this weekend.
Yeah. Loud arms.
I think we just have to be honest about Tennessee's they're a very average team right now. They're very average. They are.
Chris, when they're playing bad like this, they're average. But
brother, they have been playing bad the last 6 weeks.
Bottom floor, Chris.
They've been at the floor for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
At some point, your floor is who you are.
Yeah, but Tennessee relies on just electric arms with elite stuff. and mashing the ball. And obviously, when those, when you're not getting one of those, it's harder to rely on the other. And the defensive miscues and struggles that they've had. Hell, let's talk about Vanderbilt's stolen bases because it continues. I mean,
what was it Saturday? They had like 8 stolen bases, I think.
In game 1, it was like 60% of their runs were scored thanks to several stolen bases from each of them. I mean, it was a leadoff walk. He steals second, steals third, in the same batter. I think it was back-to-back pitches. It's just one of those things that, like, yes, they've been working with Marcus Phillips on it, but it still hasn't improved enough to where I think it needs to. And it's one of those things that, when you're bleeding out, you talk about Arkansas. Arkansas lost, 3 series in a row? They were able to figure out and stop the bleeding and playing at home, and how much confidence and, belief and just a different kind of squad atmosphere it is playing at Baum Walker for them. Tennessee really hasn't, I guess, eclipsed that edge of just, what playing at home has meant to them. And I guess I don't want to say standard or expectation, but just it's not like playing at home at Baum Walker. And they're making renovations and improving that, making the necessary gains and investments to do so. But it's just a Tennessee team that, has too many, they're hurting themselves too much, I think is the biggest thing. And when it comes down to it, that's the biggest thing for me. And, it's just trying to stop the bleeding as much as possible. And, Tennessee's trying to figure that out. There have been really battle tests the past several weeks. And, I think it's going to help them be poised for the postseason if they're able to go on a run. Like, hey, we've been down there. I mean, think about game 3. They put on the black jerseys again. And I don't think Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt appreciated that.
I have a take on that.
All right. Well, I don't think they appreciate that because they had to go put their Friday night uniforms on. It's like, all right, cool. Maybe that's just like, all right, that's just what they don't want to do. But it's like in a regular series. But this is a rivalry. Like that had a little bit, I think, a taste of that too, let alone what black balls across your chest mean. Black jersey with orange balls across your chest means. So I didn't like, I'm fine with that first off, but just like the jawing, like, obviously, our friend Jake's like, don't like it, don't give up a home run. But like, I think it's one of those things that like you tweeted out, and I agree with you overall, Chris. I think that there is a stigma around college baseball right now. And I think professional baseball as well, even more probably, that you can't clap back. Like you can't, they won't, like umpires will not allow you to clap back. And obviously, guys are throwing, harder now. So, beaming a guy with a 97-mile-an-hour fastball is different than 93, 92, in the ribs. But I think you should be able to respond. I think one of those things that you said, I don't think Andrew Fisher does that if he knows that he's probably getting earholed next at bat or if he's getting beamed next at bat. I agree with you. I agree with it. And I get to rivalry. I love the intensity. I'm fine with that to an extent. Thought it was a little much, obviously, but and you're playing at home, so you can do that, I guess, more so at home than we've seen, like Jonah Williams do it at home in a completely different situation as well. But one of those things that like I think he knows he's just not going to get beamed. And he had 2 bombs in the weekend. Like he just, it's hard because I think like even as a pitcher, like, yeah, don't give up a home run, but like if you're gonna do that, like I'm gonna get last laugh. Like, you're getting ribs next at bat, or one of my guys, if I'm not pitching, is gonna hit you in the ribs. I think that let the boys play. It's the same with the NBA, Chris. How soft the league's gotten. I think it's gotten a little soft in the sense of just oh, you can't block the play, you can't run over the catch, you can't do this. You got lane. Like I get the safety aspect of it, but like let the boys play.
Let the game police itself.
Yeah, let the game police itself. Let the boys play. Obviously, there's extents to it. And I thought Fisher's was a little extensive for sure. But like you basically just block Vandy entirely from doing anything.
Yeah. And I'll say this.
Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson got thrown out after no warning.
Yeah.
Like
that was soft. That was an show. We've talked about the umpiring and how bad it is. And they've got guys the umpires making it about this. Like nobody paid the price of admission to watch you umpire or throw guys out. And the guy in that series, we didn't even talk about it, but the guy gets called out. And he's like, hey, you flinch, you missed it. And he tosses it. That's an ego thing. That's an ego thing. That's why you're throwing him out because you're embarrassed.
And it was after like maybe 5 seconds of jawing from Jay.
You're throwing him out. You're tossing him because you are embarrassed because he called you out and he's right and he publicly embarrassed you. So you're like, well, I'm going to do the only thing I can do to you, which is toss you outside of maybe just be a bigger man and just take it for what it is. And like, hey, that's my bad. I missed it. Just call it as is. So I guess since you brought it up, I'll say, I stand on what I said about, and I will say this wasn't like an anti-Tennessee take. It was more of a baseball take. Hey, I just think that, we're seeing the celebrations get outrageous because pitchers can't take ownership of the plate anymore. Like if a guy knew that, hey, if I show up the pitcher, he's going to buzz one by my head the next time I'm up there. Well, I probably will not be as apt to do that. I'm just not. So
yeah, and like even if you throw one, it's like, hey, throw it at the bull.
I'm not
like you're getting
I'm not.
For that.
You can tell the people that responded who they've never played baseball at any level. They've never stepped foot on a baseball field. They don't know about the unwritten rules of baseball. I'm not saying pull out a pistol and shoot the guy in the head. That's not what, oh my God, you're inciting, like inflicting, life damage. That's not at all what I'm like. Please, for the love of God, spare me the dramatics. What I am suggesting is brush him off the plate, own the inside corner. Like, if a guy's going to show you up, I am going to bean you the next at bat. It's not a if, ands, or buts. There's no negotiation. Like, that's what's going to happen, and we will continue. We'll keep it moving, and we will move on, and that's it. So you can disagree with that, but you can just say you don't know baseball. You never watched baseball. You didn't play baseball. It is what it is, and they're not going to do it. That's okay. They're not going to do it. It's all good. The crazy celebrations are going to continue. I'm speaking from the pitcher perspective. People can say, what do you gain other than the pitcher? He feels better about himself. Well, that's the perspective I'm speaking from. Like, if you want guys to stop bat flipping and talking shit to the entire infield, well, again, if he knows he's getting one at the ribs or the back, or he's getting one by his dome, then he probably won't be as apt to do that next time. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, like
so
if you say to maybe you snicker something to the pitcher on the way, or you snicker something to the first baseman, or maybe to an infielder, like one guy, I have no problem with that. Like,
right. It was over the top, but here's the bigger issue. Harrison. It was over the top. We're saying this about Tennessee every weekend. And like, I like Tony a lot. Got nothing but love for the Vols, like I said. Absolutely. But I think even Tennessee fans have got to be growing weary of the fact and tired of the fact that all these antics and shit are happening every weekend and you're losing. It's okay to do all that. Like, Liam Doyle gets away with being a psycho because he's arguably the best ace in the country. If he was not very good, we'd be talking about the stuff he does a lot more. So for Tennessee, it's just like, here's the thing, Harrison. If it happens one weekend, hey, you ran into a club where things got chippy. It is what it is. Move on. But it's every weekend. It's like, I think Tony's got to reel this in a little bit. I know Tony's a fiery guy. I get it. And the club is going to embody his personality. And I'm not saying you completely change yourself, but you need to walk the walk before you talk the talk. And all they've done all season is talk the talk and not walk the walk. I want to add, by the way, this kind of goes with it too. You mentioned Tennessee. They're kind of a head case right now. They just are. And I think that's where some of the antics come from. They're searching for anything. Tony V had this quote. He had this quote after they lost the series. Quote, if anything, maybe like their coach, some of the players are just trying too hard as opposed to not trying enough, or maybe thinking a little too much as opposed to not thinking at all, end quote. Harrison, you brought up the black jerseys. The moment I saw Tennessee wearing the black jerseys, and you can say I'm reaching for something or call me crazy, the moment I saw Tennessee was wearing the black jerseys, I said, they're fucked. They are searching for anything because they're going back to the well. They're that desperate for anything good to happen. They're like,
but it worked all year last year.
That was last year.
So you're saying last year.
That was last year.
New thing this year?
That was a desperate move in my mind. You're wearing literally the same jersey you just wore Friday because you're that desperate to win a series, and it's still backfired on you. Like, and you can't – that actually even helps my point. Because you can't tell me my point's not valid from the standpoint of Tennessee is sitting there in the locker room. Hunter Inslee talked to you about the black jerseys. They're like, man, we're desperate for a series that we got to just pull the black back out. Like, dude, like they're so deep in their own heads right now, they can't think straight. Like I just Tennessee is fragile mentally, I think, at the moment. I think so. I really do. I'm not saying they can't turn it around. They can't figure it out, but it takes a toll on you. Here's think all the Sunday games they've lost. Like they're losing all these series in rubber matches. And to be fair, that gets demoralizing. So, they reached for something. It didn't work. I think Vandy was the team that played with more confidence, had nothing to lose. And I think it showed. I mean, Tennessee's pressing. There's no doubt Tennessee is pressing. Vandy took advantage. I'm just saying, be who you are. Tony, be who you are. Tennessee, you got a brand. Be who you are. But Harrison, you know as well as I do, when you're not winning, people are going to come at you, and they're going to talk shit to you. And you're making more of an ass of yourself when you're doing this every single weekend and you're not winning. Walk the walk before you talk the talk. Worry more about walking the walk if you're Tennessee. I think that, they need to just play better baseball, but they need to walk the walk across the board, because it's like every weekend the headline's the same. Oh, my God, Tennessee's involved in the scuffle. Shocker. Like, that's fine when you're beating everybody's ass, but they're the furthest thing from that, bro. They've lost 5 of their last 6 series. Like, it's time to put all those theatrics aside and get serious and go win some damn baseball games. That's just my take on it. So
I agree with put the theatrics and just get out of your own heads aside and just go play baseball. Just go have fun, like play looser. I think they're playing super tight. They're just like, I think a lot of them are too worried, as talented as they are. They're too worried about making mistakes and just not, being that big as they could and need to be in the moment. Just they're putting too much pressure on themselves, I think, because Chris, I'm gonna bring it up again. We got maybe halfway through the year, and you said, "Is this Tennessee team better than last year's team?"
Through 3 weekends, I said that. Yeah,
it's like
they were rolling.
Weekends.
They were rolling. Yeah,
I think the ceiling is there, but the floor is a little lower, and I think that like the way that they're playing is, like I said, the basement the past couple of weeks, right? Tennessee is a team that if they end up not hosting regional, they would be the worst 2 seed you ever face.
I just wonder at this point, they ran into the adversity everybody runs to in college baseball. Where is the leadership to get them out of it? Where's the leadership to get them out of the rut? Because
Hunter Hensley is the leader in that clubhouse. There's no doubt about that.
No doubt. But
look how he's playing.
It's been 6 weeks.
Look how he's playing.
This isn't a 2-week
He draws a little bit, which I like, but he backs it up, and he's leading the clubhouse. He's playing phenomenal baseball on both sides of the ball. He's playing maybe his best ball of his career.
I'm not doubting Tony V and Tennessee can go on a run, but I'm just saying, like, this isn't a small sample size.
Something's got to change, though, with how they
Something's got to give. And now you got to go to Arkansas.
Yep.
Like, you think that one's not going to be chippy? Like, I mean,
I'm not going to say, I think this does need to be included, but I'm not going to, put too much stock in it and, like, say this is an excuse for Tennessee. They did deal with weather delays again this series, though. On Sunday, Chris, in the rubber match you're talking about. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
but Chris, you're talking about like Tegan Coons and the Sunday struggles they've had. He pitched well, 3 2/3, 1 earned. It just looked, it was Tanner Franklin to get the 2 runs late, and then Doyle pitched, or not Doyle, excuse me, Dylan Lloyd pitched fine. I mean, yeah, give up a run, but Nate Snead pitched fine. It's just like you can't leave 12 guys on base in a rubber match and expect to win. That was the biggest thing.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, we've spent the majority of the time talking about Tennessee because they are
Chris, just to mention it, 6 errors in the series. And they could not stop Vanderbilt from stealing bases.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, dude, Tony made
you can't help out the worst offense that much.
Dude, Tony made the comment about Marcus Phillips after the Game 2 game, which I'm looking for the quote, may not be able to find it. Yeah, anyways. Essentially said that we got a new pitcher tomorrow, and like the other guy needs to do a better job. I essentially called out Marcus Phillips for all the stolen bases, which I don't know how he's that slow to the plate. Like, bro, we are in May. How have you
that, Chris? And he throws 100.
Brother, incorporate a slide step for the love of God. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, how can you be that slow to the plate?
Well, I think also, I think he's maybe worked on mixing up his moves, but like mix up your timings and looks a little bit more. Like,
yeah.
But then it's also, Chris, it's another thing in his own head, maybe too, because his outings have not been as good either.
It was 2 clubs of, I think Vandy embraced kind of this underdog role. I mean, they've obviously got elite arms. We know that. And those guys were really impressive. But you saw the Barksy kid with a couple bombs. Mancini gets the big one, only his 2nd home run of the season. I believe that might have been his 1st in SEC play. It's when
Holcomb had a big game.
Yeah. So, I mean, dude, Vandy's kind of like Auburn, Harrison, where maybe you're not looking at them as like the most talent. They don't have an Andrew Fisher or Liam Doyle or Hunter Inslee, but they're scrappy 1 through 9, and we know they can pitch, and we know they can play good defense. And if you're at Tennessee and you're not doing the little things right, Vandy can beat you. And that's just exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So kudos to Vandy.
I mean, I think one of the leaders in Vanderbilt's clubhouse, RJ Austin, for some reason, and I don't know if he just can't see during these situations, he cannot hit a lefty to save his life. He's batting under 100. Yeah. It's like .83, I think, against lefties, and he's batting like 280 or something against righties. His on base percentage is like 780 against righties, and it's like 200 against lefties. He just can't see lefties and can't hit a lefty to save his life. 0 for 4 against, or I guess in game 1, majority obviously against Liam Doyle. 1 for 5 with the 3 RBIs in game 2. Game 3, 2 for 3. Obviously, you get some mix and match lefties and righties throughout there, but like when I saw those numbers, watching the game and everything, I'm like, just that inconsistency. I mean, I would just throw as many lefties as I could against them.
Yeah. Postseason baseball coming to Nashville, Harrison, for the Vols. I don't know.
Chris, I'm going to say it before we get off. I still think Tennessee will be one of the most deadly and tough teams to play in the postseason. No doubt they can go on a run.
No doubt they can.
Because that switch could flip.
Got to start playing better. Just got to start executing. Got to start playing better. Bottom line.
It's just leaving runners on base. I'm such a big pro.
That and defense. I think defensively, that'll cost you in tight games, which you in the postseason.
We'll throw in that defensive umbrella these stolen bases. Controlling the run game. That's
defense as a whole. Defense as a whole. Got to be better. Tony knows that. All right, let's go to Tuscaloosa, Harrison. The Alabama Crimson Tide take down Georgia. Best 2 of 3. This was a series you and I actually disagreed on. Georgia's road woes continue. It didn't look that way after game 1. They put belt to ass in game 1. Scored, 19 runs in game 1?
19 runs.
That was as belt to ass as it gets, though. 19 runs in game 1.
I think Auburn's was more.
Auburn, they were both.
24 runs.
I know. They were both in that category. Give Alabama credit, man. At home, you knew it was a massive series. They're kind of looking for that signature series win that I think they can hang their hat on and say, hey, we deserve postseason baseball at the Joe. We deserve to be a top 16. You get that against Georgia. Riley Quick and Zane Adams hold it down. How about Carson Osmer, Harrison? Sets the record, Alabama school record, I should say, for saves in a season. He picks up his 15th. I believe it was in game 3. Justin LeBron comes alive with a couple big knocks. Thoughts on this weekend in Tuscaloosa, man? This was one that was heavily weather impacted. We got the game on Friday. What was it? No baseball Saturday, I believe. And then Sunday, we had like a weird doubleheader thing.
This feels like the 3rd straight week. I know at least 2 when we've had just monumental amount of weather impacting series.
Dude, it was yeah, maybe it's just setting us up for Hoover. I don't know.
Anyway, maybe it's just getting out of the way before Hoover.
Maybe. Hopefully.
Hey, hopefully LSU's probably hoping it just keeps going.
Yeah, they want that late game. Thoughts, though, Harrison? Alabama, huge series win over Georgia. When you think about what it means for their postseason hopes, hosting hopes, more importantly, huge one for the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I think obviously the offense coming alive was a big piece of it, and just what we've seen the lack thereof with that, with Justin LeBron and how he was one of the hottest hitters in the country, Chris, to start the first half of the season, probably, if not a couple weeks into conference play too. And, just needing I don't want to say a desperate mode or desperate way, but like just what feels almost like desperation. The offense needs just to pick it up, because with how kind of Auburn's been sliding a little bit the past couple of weeks, when you got Bonamalo Jr. picking up for, in games. Justin LeBron obviously has, a big week in relative terms to how he's been playing recently, which that doesn't say anything about his talent. We obviously know how incredibly talented he is. Bryce Fowler has a huge series as well, I think, in just an important series offensively, even though, he goes 0 for 3 in game 1. I think it's one of those things that, the offense stepped it up, but it was really predicated on the pitching staff to continue to hold this Georgia offense that's been night and day difference as a whole on the road. And it was, they put Tyler Fay in the Friday night role of the game. I'm just going to say game 1, right? Game 1 role. Yeah. And just, I don't know if you can keep doing it. I really don't.
I'd agree.
I don't think you can. It's too late in the season to keep doing it. It's just not working. It worked, 1 weekend, but then, picking up the slack with Riley Quick and how his outing went, just the length that he gave them. I know it's 4 1/3, but just.
I think too that was weather delay impact.
Yeah, and a gutsy performance.
So he would have gone longer than that. Because he was like, I think he was like,
obviously
what was he, 7 Ks in 4 1/3?
7 Ks in 4 1/3.
He was dealing. He was dealing.
87 pitches in. It's just obviously the weather impact. And Zane Adams, like, the thing with Alabama's pitch staff I don't like is just how high their pitch counts get. It feels like early in the game is why they don't go length. You see them go 4 innings and just like we need more quality length out of them to save your bullpen. But the bullpen stepped up to the task, and Osmer, I mean, absolutely shoved. Back-to-back games. He goes obviously 9 pitches on the second day. In a back-to-back day, but 35 in his first outing of the series. I mean, he's as best in the back end of a bullpen you're going to find, maybe in the SEC, maybe the country. And it's just one of those things that it doesn't feel like, he leads the country and leads the SEC in saves, because, it feels like I'm just going to say, it feels like Dylan Volantis because of the high leverage situation he pitches in and how every game Texas wins this season is a 1-run ball game, like just the up and downs of Alabama's season, I feel like, and just it doesn't feel like he's in a ton of save situations. And obviously trying to watch, we're sitting here watching eight series every week, and I'm calling, a game or several games a weekend. This weekend I called 3 games with weather impact stuff too. So obviously, trying to keep up with as much as possible. But it's one of those things that I guess everyone, for me as a whole, everyone in Alabama stepped up as a whole in the situations in which they needed to after game 1, responding and saying, hey, like, we can't let them come into Tuscaloosa, into our house and do this. And, just resorted Georgia back to, this is how we can get them out. And this is how, I guess we can get them out on the road. I'm really not sure what it is about Georgia's offense on the road versus at home. Obviously the comfortability and things like that, but it's so night and day. It's literally, like I said, with RJ Austin, just can't hit lefties, but he can mash righties. Like it's just such an anomaly to me. I think with as high of a ceiling as Georgia's offense is, as low of a floor it is. But Chris, good thing for Georgia, there will be postseason baseball at Foley Field.
Yeah, and the good thing too, they get that final regular season series at home against a Texas A&M team that we will talk about in a moment.
Struggling team, but yes, and I'm going to predicate it, Chris. I picked Georgia. I thought they'd figure it out this weekend on the road. And after game 1, I said
they did for one game.
Yeah, after game 1, I was like, all right, like Georgia's offense figured it out on the road. And I said, I know that's Tyler Fay, but I was like, I don't think they're going to get enough linked out of, Riley Quick and Zane Adams to, with how much bullpen they used in game 1 too, and obviously the weather impact too. But I was like, I just don't see Georgia dropping next 2 games with, after figuring out putting 19 runs up. Like, I mean, obviously they proved me wrong, and Georgia fans will not say a word about it. That's for sure this week. I can promise you that. So, back into the Foley trees they go.
Like the Bart Simpson gif where he like backs into the tree. That's backing into the Foley tree.
That's exactly what I was referencing. I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought kudos to Bama, man. It was a Bama team that I think they knew what was on the line this weekend. I think if you're Alabama, you knew, hey, we have to win 2 of 3 this weekend to have a shot to be a regional host. And that's the goal, obviously, to get postseason
and getting to
back in
the game too is huge.
Yeah.
30 pitches and less than anything gets out. I mean, that just sets you up so well, and it kind of messes up Georgia's, I guess, strategy, or kind of like the direction you want to go with, how they pitch game 2 and then obviously game 3.
Yeah. No, it was an impressive weekend for Alabama. Georgia's just, like you said, the best news, Harrison, is that they're going to play postseason baseball at home because, I mean, here's the thing, Georgia, if you make it to Omaha, that's not at home. So you're going to have to figure out winning not at Foley Field at some point. Yeah, I thought the pitching, I thought Bama was able to get to him games 2 and 3, get to him early. Yeah, just a gritty weekend by the Crimson Tide, especially responding after the game 1 where you really, I mean, you got embarrassed, really, truly, the way you got beat down. So, yeah, I would agree with you, though. If you're Bama, I think, and we've been saying it for weeks, Faye has done a decent job. I know our guy Jake McKeever actually disagrees with this, Harrison. He feels like he says they, maybe he's got some people, but Jake essentially insinuated, well, you put yourself in a position where you roll the dice with Faye in game 1 and then Quick and Zane Adams give you the advantage in games 2 and 3. I've never believed in like saving your best for tomorrow, especially when you get in the
Tampa Bay Rays,
especially when you get in the postseason, right? Like you're not going to do that. So
yeah, because then you're going to try to, flip their schedules back to, game 1, game 2 from game 2, game 3. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a situation in which you open with them, maybe an inning. But I'm trying to think like who else
I think you go Quick Adams Faye. I think that gives you the best chance in a weekend. I think
I like Quick in game one. I like that.
Quick's a stud. I think he's their best arm. I've been saying it for a while. I think he's their best arm.
maybe,
And then Carson Osmer is so much fun to watch pitch. It's just like bring back I say soft throwing. It's not like he doesn't. I mean, he throws 90 miles an hour, but it's that comparatively now to what we see. He's just more of that low 3/4 slot, kind of crouched down. The guy on the broadcast, funny enough, compared him to Dennis Eckersley, which I thought was interesting. But
Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, he's just hard to hit. Just everything moves. You get the baseball to him, Bama's got a good shot to win. I know
maybe he gives Vinatieri another start. I know he's got 4 of them this year.
Yeah, maybe so. No,
Bama though got 10 of them, but not the way he's pitching right now.
Yeah, Bama though, big series win over Georgia. Yeah, go ahead.
Big series win over Georgia, and if they want to continue playing well before the postseason, Chris, they have to travel to one of the hottest teams in the country, if not the hottest team in the country, the Florida Gators.
Which exactly, speaking of the Florida Gators, we'll keep it moving and talk what happened in Austin, Texas this weekend. Florida goes into Dish Falk. The only thing I'm mad about, Harrison, I should have called this. I should have had the stones to go with this prediction. I didn't.
No, because you said Florida's cooked early in the year. Put a fork in them, they're cooked.
I mean, at one point they were. Credit to Sully and company for turning it around. That was the motivation they needed. That's what I'm going to stand on. Florida goes into Austin, Harrison. Takes 2 out of 3, and it started from the jump. They score 6 runs in the top of the first inning in game 1. They hold on, run away with that one. This was another one. Weather impacted. Game 2 happens on Saturday. Liam Peterson is shoving. Texas gets a lightning delay sent from the high heavens above that changes that game entirely. Give Texas credit. Come out of the lightning delay. Liam Peterson's day is done, obviously. They come back, win that one. But for Florida, in game 3, rubber match in Austin, to come through, a big swing of the bat from Brody. Really, we can talk about guys swinging the stick for Florida. Aiden King, man. Aiden King in game 3. Drop your freaking nuts, young man. Go out there when your team needs you. And I know it's not the best lineup in the conference with Texas.
I know exactly where that quote's
from. But still a very capable lineup. Drop your nuts when your team needs you most and put on a freaking show and deliver a championship-level outing. That's what you got from Aiden King. Then Jake Clemente comes in, slams the door. They're able to save him. Harrison, there's not a hotter team in college baseball right now than the Florida Gators. From 1-11 in conference play to we're potentially talking about them. If they were to do the crazy thing and sweep this weekend, Alabama, we're talking about a Florida team that could play their way into hosting a regional, as wild as that sounds. Thoughts on the weekend? I think they absolutely could. Yes. With their schedule, strength of schedule, RPI, who they've beaten and not. There's at least a discussion. Dude, if they sweep Bama and then go to Hoover, win 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, win 2 or 3 in Hoover,
yes. You cannot tell me they don't deserve
win 2 or 3 in Hoover.
Yeah.
But not just based off a sweep next week.
I think they've moved already from a 3 to a 2. I think they've already jumped from the 3 to the 2. I would be shocked if they're not a 2 seed in the latest projections. Would be shocked. Just saying, the turnaround, a team that started 1-11 in conference play has never made the postseason until now because they are 100% a lock to get in.
Yep. The stat you're saying since 1992 expansion, no SEC team has made the tournament, the NCAA tournament, starting 2-10 or worse. No team since 1992 has ever done that. Florida started 1-11. This was their first series.
And now it's win. 13-14, I believe. Yep, 13-14.
This is their first series win, Chris, versus the number 1 ranked team since sweeping number 1 Texas A&M in April of 2016 as well. I mean,
wow,
how much hotter can you get than that? And doing it on the road. Yes, Texas is a struggling team right now, just injuries wise. I think it's really hurting them. Obviously you lose your Friday night arm, your best arm, starter wise, and then you lose 2024 Big 12 Player of the Year and a preseason Golden Spikes watch list and Max Ballou. But I mean, we talk about it all the time, Chris. I feel like you can never count out a Florida team. And I said that even when you said they were cooked, I said you can never count out a Florida team head coached by Kevin O'Sullivan. He's been to Omaha more times than he has not. And think about when he's been there, Florida has taken down the number 1 team in the country 10 times since 2012. And as they hand Texas their first home series loss of the season. As many big series as Texas has played at home, no one could do it except for Florida at the end of the year. I mean, they've won 15 of their last 19 overall, 12 of their last 15 in SEC play. They've won 5 straight SEC series, Chris, after you said they were cooked. And it was on the backs of
I'd like to go back and check the tape. I definitely said they were cooked, but I don't think I said just like I think I left the door open. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you said I think they have to win the rest of their SEC series.
I think I left the door. I think we'll have to go back and
check the
oven
open.
We'll have to go back and check the tape. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like you said, Aiden King, I mean, he's allowed only 1 earned run in 14 1/3 innings across his last 3 starts.
Harrison, he has the best ERA amongst freshmen in the conference.
I was about to say, as a freshman to lead the league in ERA, I mean,
he's got the 3rd best, according to the broadcast of the weekend. He's got the 3rd best freshman ERA in college baseball. And I'm sure there's some qualification.
And the SEC's doing it too.
I'm sure there's some qualification of that, but like, I mean, they, I remember you and I talking Harrison preseason about, hey, they got this guy, Aiden King. I don't think they expected him to be maybe in this position already in his young career.
Had to rely on him is the thing, though.
Had to. They didn't have a choice.
I mean, I don't know if you saw what Coach O'Sullivan said about him. On his elite performance, but I think as a whole, he said, I don't remember a freshman pitcher on the road pitching like this as well as he's done. And if it's happened, it hasn't happened in a really long time.
I mean, that was a big time outing. That was that moment. That was a big time outing.
That showed what his potential is a year or 2 from now. That's going to be like, I don't want to say the expectation standard to put pressure on him, but like that's going to be like, hey, like this is what he can do week in and week out for us throughout his career as a Florida Gator. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you got to think they're 4-1 overall. The Gators are, and 2-1 on the road in series under O'Sullivan this year. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, Harrison, because I know before the season.
He was so dialed in, Chris. And the thing is, as a freshman against the number 1 team in the country on the road, he left 10 guys on base.
Yeah, he had you could tell watching him, he had full command of the game.
Yeah.
Like the moment wasn't too big. There was never a moment where I thought he got outside of himself. You know what that's like, Harrison. You know what that looks like, feels like. He was in total control. He was playing catch. It's just a day playing catch.
Yeah, literally. And hey, let the defense, help me out. Why not? Like, I'm going to go strike out some guys and let the defense get some few outs.
Harrison, what about the lineup for Florida? I don't feel like it's just one guy. Like, you got a lot of guys. I talked about Donay had a big backside home, but it's Luke Heyman's always coming up clutch of big hits. Bobby Baseball's coming up clutch of big hits. It's a bunch, Brendan Lawson. It's a bunch of different dudes. I don't think there's like one guy you look at and like, he's just caught crazy fire. They got a bunch of guys. And to think, I mean, dude, Saturday they had 9 position players available because Justin Nadeau got sick or whatever. They got 10 position.
And you talked about going into the series. I mean, it's crazy just like, and you and I are super high on how talented this team was beginning the season and early in the season, just like how this might be. Yes, the pitching staff has had some injuries. They lost their starting center fielder. The Stetson transfer and Kyle Jones, I believe, and just what he's, he meant to the.
They lost him early, really early.
They lost him like
Miami series, end of March.
Yeah, and like how important of a piece he was, to line up a big impact transfer player. And it's like, it's not. Use as an example. It's not the offense revolves around Justin LeBron. Florida can beat you with so many different guys. Like let's say Bobby Bowser and Luke Heyman and Brendan Lawson don't have a good game. All right, Hayden Yost, go have 3 RBIs. Justin Nadeau, go have 3 RBIs. Like in the bottom third of the order, they can produce. Mm-hmm. And it's been streaky, obviously hot, and then really cold, and then warming up, and then now heating up throughout the season. Heat up at the right time, Chris. Get healthy at the right time, and how important that is. And this lineup, has experience and has a good mix of experience, I think, in depth as well. But it's also you got to look at getting healthy. And Pierce Coppola, I thought looked good in a short start. Obviously 43 pitches.
Talk about a guy that's 6'8", by the way.
Yeah, with probably a 7-foot release height, and throwing downhill. I mean, I thought he looked really good. And it's one of those things that he's continued to build confidence since coming back. I mean, he's 3-0. Take it with a grain of salt because I think it's a dumb stat, to be honest with you. But, it's
he's a weapon, though. He's a weapon for them.
Yeah. And then Billy Barlow coming in and just being on point like a decimal. I mean, come on. I mean, it was –
I mean, that was huge, Harrison, from the standpoint they were able to save Jake Clemente to Sunday. And, I mean, he made things
and Luke McNeely pitched good. He needed to because he has so much inconsistency as well.
Yeah,
I wonder. Consistent.
I wonder how they're going to utilize Philpott moving forward because he's just been so inconsistent. That is probably the biggest knock, I would say. He hasn't been what they expected, but I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan talked about it. He's getting the question like, what do you credit to the turnaround? And he mentions Jake Clemente, I think, every time he answers that question. Them moving him to the back end of the bullpen, Harrison, it's changed their bullpen. It's just complete. And then obviously you needed a guy like Aiden King to step up and fill the role. But Jake Clemente, I mean, and he made things very interesting on Sunday. Don't get me wrong, but he's like a big time. I mean, he's pumping 98, big time dude. So I think he's a great fit back there. And dude, I know we had this debate, Harrison, and rightly so in the preseason. But I want to go back to this because what I was about to say was give credit to Kevin O'Sullivan. In the preseason, I ranked Kevin O'Sullivan as the #1 head coach in the SEC.
So
and listen, if Jay Johnson wins a national title, we'll have a different conversation. If things can obviously change depending on new information that comes about, what happens in the postseason, et cetera. But this season is only reaffirming why I had Kevin O'Sullivan in that #1 spot. Like, to take
this might be his most impressive year.
To take a team from 1-11 in conference play to where they are now, and not just that, because you and I agree, they've always had the talent to go on this run. We never questioned that. Got super cold start of SEC play, all the injuries hit at once. The way Kevin O'Sullivan has been able to push all the right buttons, pull all the right strings, they're going into these weekends with like a literal script of how they're going to pitch guys, how long they're going to go. Like, the way they're having to roadmap this thing and then they're executing it, it just shows, again, why Kevin O'Sullivan, in my opinion, until somebody dethrones him, is the best coach in the SEC and one of the best in the country. Like, the proof's in the pudding. I don't know how many other coaches could take the situation they've been in with the injuries and being shorthanded and all the adversity they had, being 1-11, and getting it even remotely close to this point. So we always knew they had the talent, but I think you got to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff and Kevin O'Sullivan specifically for keeping those guys believing in each other, rallying around each other, and putting them all in the best possible position to be successful, not losing the faith, but also being able to just push the right buttons, pull the right strings in the pitching staff, in the lineup. And again, the way you're winning with 10 position players and having to shuffle your pitching staff. Think about how differently Florida looks right now than they looked in the preseason when we predicted and thought they were going to be, an Omaha team. They very well may still be an Omaha team, but it's a completely different look than we expect in the preseason. Now, that speaks so much to me about Kevin O'Sullivan and his entire staff. They've done an incredible job. Probably, I think maybe the best coaching job of anybody in this conference because of the adversity they faced.
I absolutely agree with that. I was about to say, I think it's one of the most it's the team with the most adversity, I think, in the conference as a whole this season, just with all the things you mentioned of, the injuries, the, shuffling of things and just things they've had to battle through. Obviously, I think the schedule's been super tough too. They got a number 4, I think, shrink the schedule in the country. I mean, it's the non-conference RPI as well as number 7 in the country. It's so tough, and he has proven it year in, year out. And I think, surprisingly, Chris, somehow, some way that he has proven that this, even with a week left, I'm going to say before conference tournament, this is his best regular season coaching year, I think, of his career, maybe. I think it's up for that debate for sure. And it's one of those things that what he's had to deal with and the other things he had to overcome, as well as, like you said, recently battling with 10 position players and then 9 on the road against the number 1 team in the nation. It's just so impressive. And it's a thing that is a no takeaway from Texas, because they've had obviously their struggles recently and injuries as well. And, finally got caught at home, I guess you could say.
I mean, dude, and look, you mentioned Texas, because I do want to ask you.
We haven't talked about Texas at all. We need to.
I know. I want to give credit to Florida because I think they went in there and took it. I don't think Texas
if this was at Florida, I would have picked Florida to win the series.
Yeah, Florida went in there and took it. Like, I don't think it was But I do have to ask you, are you hitting the panic button? Are you worried about Texas for real, for real? Like last weekend was, hey, whatever, they were due. Now it's like, there's your thoughts. Are you hitting the panic button on Texas at all?
No, just because I know how talented this team is, top to bottom, how good they are in close games, and just how talented this coaching staff is, Chris, and knowing how to get the best out of their players and put them in the best situations to be successful. I think that's a huge thing as well, and something that, they've been battle tested so much. I know obviously a lot of it's been at home, but I still think they've been battle tested a lot and have, a lot of really talented arms still, even though you lose, let's say 5 innings a weekend, 5.5 innings a weekend. Granted, I know you can't throw half an inning, but on average from, your Friday night ace and Jared Spencer, I think they have enough guys to make up for it. I mean, you have Grayson Saunier, who went 5 1/3. I thought it was a huge situation, a huge spot that they needed to have him there. I mean, Max Grubbs does a phenomenal job, first guy at the pin. I mean, you can even, maybe you throw Ruger back in a Sunday role and put Grubbs as kind of like a 3-4 inning opener and then put Saunier after him. But like they have the arms to do so. And Hudson Hamilton, like I haven't seen him pitch a ton, pitched really well. They have guys that they haven't thrown a ton because they haven't necessarily need to or been forced to, but they have so much talent in the bullpen, I think, that people don't know about. And then obviously the job that, Thomas Burns does every time he's out there almost feels like, and then absolutely every time but one, Dylan Valencia does out there. He's got, 12 saves now in the year. I mean, as a freshman in the SEC, it's just so incredibly well, and he can do it in multiple innings. I'm not hitting the panic button on Texas because you're also getting Max Ballou back. You're getting it back.
Let me ask you this before we move on. What do you do with Riojas?
I think you move into Sunday role.
So who pitches Friday?
I think, like I said, like an opening with Max Grubbs, if you're listening, like with 3 or 4 innings, and then, or maybe Saunier goes like 3 or 4. I mean, I think they had a talent to do so, and it's like you can get a short start out of him, and you have several high leverage arms that you can throw multiple innings out of the bullpen that have done it all year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're, like I said, the coaching staff with Max Wiener, the arm farm, I think he's the best pitching coach in college baseball right now, if not one of the best pitching coaches, and just getting the most out of his guys and the athletes he's, worked with throughout his entire career, let alone Chris. He's worked with these guys less than 12 months, less than 10 months, Chris. And look what he's already gotten out of them statistically. And I think individually as a whole, just stuff wise and, draft stock wise. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's only going to get better. And I think that they're going to hone in on this and, get going for the postseason. They may not be the hottest team going to the postseason because they're as hot as they've been all year. You said everyone gets slipped up in the SEC at some point. Everyone gets caught. Texas is getting caught right now against 2 really good teams. 2 of the best teams, you could say, the best and most complete team in college baseball in Arkansas, and maybe the hottest team in the country in Florida. It's not like you're losing a series to A&M right now, or, I'm going to use SEC examples, Alabama, or Ole Miss. It's not like you're losing middle of the pack SEC teams. You're losing to some of the best talent in the SEC that's playing their best baseball right now.
Or next weekend when you travel to Oklahoma. They lose that one, I will panic might be a strong word, but I'll become very, very concerned. I'm already a little concerned with Texas just because, then again, anybody, you lose your ace.
Yes.
They depended on
but
so
I'm
heavily.
not throwing a towel. Like, that's why I didn't buy any more stock in Texas. Like, the cost is not worth what, the ceiling is of a little bit more maybe, but a lot less, when someone gets caught in the SEC. But Chris, did you buy any more stock in Florida at all? I think we bought a little bit, right? But
yeah,
everything changed for Florida, Chris. Do you know when?
When? Humor me.
April 11th. When you played Florida State and you won a 1-run ball game, everything changed that day in a midweek and followed in the SEC that following weekend when you swept Missouri. Everything has changed since then. I mean, sweep Missouri. You go take 2 or 3 at the dude in a run rule game 1. You take 2 or 3 at home versus number 5 Arkansas, an elite Arkansas team that obviously had their struggles. Then you go sweep on the road at South Carolina, and then you go take 2 or 3 at number 1 Texas. Missouri's a turning point, Chris. For
winning
Florida.
Breeds confidence, breeds winning, breeds confidence.
Winning solves a lot of issues, Chris. And
no doubt.
I mean, speaking of Missouri, Chris, transition again.
You've been really good with the segues today. I'll give you credit, by the way. Anyways, great series by Florida. Texas. Going to be interesting to follow along. Again, big one at Oklahoma this weekend. They need to get it turned around quickly. Like you said, speaking of Mizzou and Harrison, it's only fitting that our final regular season Monday show, if you paid attention, those tuned in, the thumbnail for this one, front and center, is Sam Horn of the Missouri Tigers, because Mizzou, Harrison, and Texas A&M in College Station. Mizzou does, what's the word beyond unthinkable? The unfathomable.
Unfathomable, unimaginable,
flabbergasting. Just use whatever adjective you want. Harrison, you and I, if we were sitting here talking about Mizzou winning their first conference game, period, would have said that was crazy. If we were talking about them winning the series, we would have said that was insane. My friend, we're talking about Missouri going into CSTAT, going into Bluebell, and sweeping Texas A&M, sweeping them. And it all changed. A&M's up 6-3 in the ninth inning on Friday. Ho-hum, no biggie. Missouri scores 6 runs in the top of the ninth inning. They take game 1, and from then on, Harrison, it was like A&M just mailed it in. Games 2 and game 3, because those 2 games were dominating. Mizzou wins. Jake and I talked on Saturday night after they lost the series, so I want to kick it immediately to you, because you were texting us like, no way, there's no shot.
Yeah, I was busy then. I was like,
Harrison, we're not joking with you. This is actually happening.
I literally looked, I texted you, I was like, I got to look this up. I can't get fooled by them.
Yeah, your thoughts on Missouri. By the way, over under 3.5 is now in serious jeopardy.
Good thing I took the under 4.5, Chris.
Serious jeopardy. Your thoughts on Missouri sweeping Texas A&M?
Shocked. On the road, Chris, you forgot to mention that. On the road at Texas A&M, after Texas A&M had an insane series win, like I mentioned earlier, versus LSU at home in College Station. I mean, I think that was, we're like, maybe this, A&M team that started as cold as humanly possible, as maybe historically possible, for as highly talented and talented as they are, maybe like this is like they go win at Tennessee, they go win at Arkansas, they obviously, they got swept at Texas. That was the all 1-run ball games. Then they take 2 of 3 versus LSU, and it's like they're continuing to build momentum. You don't want to play this team in the postseason. As great as ball as they're playing, in that moment, to just dismantle of a capping off like what feels like the entire season of just frustration and letdown and just headache. And Chris, I told you guys when I jumped on Friday Night Spikes, the first play of SEC ball that I watched Friday night, because I was calling the Georgia Tech Louisville game, was the last hit, the last out of Missouri Texas A&M when the diving catch in right field. That was the first play. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was keeping up with it, obviously, with your group chat, but I was like, this is not good for the series. And I didn't think they'd sweep at all, but I was like, they're going to be in at least one of the next 2 games. But to go into Texas A&M in College Station, Bluebell Park, ball 5 chance, probably not that many bubbles. In every single game that they've played in the SEC. And win that first game the way that they did, ripped the hearts out of A&M. And I think just like the Grinch, just grew a heart more into Missouri and gave them life the rest of that series and the rest of, I think, the season for them. I mean, because they lost a 6-5 ball game versus Kansas, and a really close one, a Kansas team that was just previously ranked. So they've been playing really good. And granted, it's really given us with a grain of salt. Missouri really good, right? And to do that, just go win 4-1 and hold this A&M lineup to what they did with 1 run in game 2, 1 run in game 3. I don't know if I'm more confused about that A&M's season, Tennessee's blunders, or what. It's just, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. And it's one of those things that I've seen and heard from A&M fans that say this is the most embarrassing moment in A&M baseball history. And I don't know A&M baseball history that well, but I'm probably going to throw it in the top 10.
Oh, at least
Like,
top 5. I mean, do you let an 0-24 team come into your house and sweep you?
As a preseason,
I mean, we were talking about this being like historically, like maybe the worst team in SEC baseball history.
Yeah.
This is why we'll probably.
Year, Chris, I think the worst record was like 4 and whatever, like 4-win season.
We'll probably never. This confirms we'll probably never see an 0-30 team. Probably never. So I thought it was really telling too. Guys like Ryan Brauninger and those that cover Texas A&M, they mentioned after the series was over, sometimes in baseball, numbers don't tell the stories. Like they tell the story this weekend. Like
I don't think numbers tell the story though.
The offense was horrendous for A&M. Horrendous. Saturday and Sunday, it was terrible. It's non-existent. I mean, they had like 2 hits going like the 8th inning in game 3.
They had 2 hits
I think they nailed
game 2, I think.
I'm not trying to take anything. By the way, congratulations to Carrick Jackson. Congratulations.
Yeah, the post-game interview Jake with him was really great.
Mizzou needs to get their props, their credit, because this is a team that has continued to fight all season. If Missouri fires Carrick Jackson, they are officially they are clueless. Clueless.
Well, Chris, hey, maybe we saw the quote from the AD. Maybe after this weekend they'll start investing in baseball more.
Hey, maybe we'll look back, Harrison. This was the moment.
This was a turning point in Missouri baseball program history. Hey, fill up and pack out Phi Delta Theta Stadium.
Dude, they come home this weekend. That Mississippi State comes to
town. It's a hot team too.
Hey, don't let MIZ get hot.
Don't let MIZ get hot, Chris. And if I told you that Missouri at Texas A&M, let alone Missouri, would have 12 hits in game 1, 11 hits in game 2, and 15 hits in game 3, you wouldn't have believed a single one of those, let alone 2 or 3 of them, let alone winning a game, let alone winning a series, and let alone winning and sweeping. I think that was just the biggest. I don't know what was bigger, Chris. It still hasn't really sunk in. I haven't really dove into it enough to come to a consensus conclusion. What was more impressive / surprising in a positive way for Missouri for you? The offensive explosion or the pitching staff and what they did to A&M?
I think definitely the offensive explosion against that rotation. Yeah, I think that was the more surprising part. To score 6 runs in the top of the 9th against, I think that was A&M's dude that they had in the 9th inning pitching, one of their dudes. To scratch together 6 runs to steal that game and then following it up the way they did Saturday, Sunday, I think that was the most. I think that was the most.
I'm leaning the pitching staff. Honestly, because we've seen Missouri hang around with
both were impressive.
With
both
good
were
pitching staffs. Like we've seen Missouri's bats hang around in games facing Hunter Elliott, Riley Max, these guys. In other SEC teams, they've just gotten lost shootouts. Hung around with Georgia's pitching staff. But they have the worst ERA in the league by like triple anyone else. Like it doesn't even make sense how bad they're pitching. I think that their ERA was a 13 and change coming into it. I think I'm leaning that way for sure for what was the craziest and most impressive thing for me from Missouri. But at the end of the day, Chris, doing it on the road.
Harrison, I think the elephant in the room we have to address now is what this means for Michael Early. A&M season is all but over. I don't even know if sweeping Georgia at Georgia would salvage it. Maybe it would, but like being realistic, is that going to happen? Who knows? College baseball, as we've seen, very unpredictable, but their postseason chances are essentially slim to virtually none. I don't know, Harrison, how Michael Early can come back from this. I just don't. I don't know how you come back from this. You put together a nice run. I know their season doesn't make sense, but I said it when I talked to Jake Saturday night, Harrison. Here's the reality of it all. Even if they would have taken this series, if they would have swept, they would have made the postseason, went on the road somewhere as a 2 or 3 seed. Barring them making a run to Omaha, and I know maybe you don't agree with me, that's fine. Barring them making a run to Omaha, though, when the dust settled on this season, you would have looked at this season. Yeah, that season in totality was an unmitigated disaster. Like, That season didn't even remotely come close to meeting the expectations we had set out for this team. A team that was preseason number 1, consensus pick by everybody, essentially, to win it all. And you did not even host a regional. Like, you weren't even one of the top 16 teams in the country. And now you're more than likely probably, I'll go ahead and say it. I think I'll say it again. You're cooked. I'll stick another fork in A&M. This team's not going to the postseason. Like, you're done. You are done. So I just don't know how Michael Early makes it. I don't know how he survives it. I said my piece on Michael Early a month or so ago after they lost to Kentucky. You know, it's not like I'm pulling for the guy to lose his job or anything. That's not anywhere remotely where I'm at. But I just think if you're A&M, unless there's something behind closed doors that has blown this up internally that we don't know about, I think you got to just accept your L, take it, move on, and you got to go a different direction. Because to take this group of players and have this kind of season and get swept by Mizzou on your home field, Harrison, it is inexcusable no matter how you slice it up. So I don't think he survives it personally.
It's tough because of the expectations and coming into the season, but I think also the standard of which how the season came to fruition from last year and losing your one game away from winning your first championship in a Power 3 sport in program history to how the season started, everything, expectations this year, the roster, the coaching staff, everything to what it is now. It's hard to imagine there probably isn't a change, but it's one of those things I don't know A&M donors, athletic department, AD, SID. I don't know a history of that enough to speak on it, but it feels like the conversations, I would hate to be a fly in that room. I think I would not want to be a fly on that wall. It leaves, I think, it leaves me and so many A&M fans speechless.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom. It's hard to believe. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I think their postseason hopes, though, are essentially toast, barring a super deep run in Hoover.
It's super deep run in the SEC tournament, yeah. Which, hey, never know.
Crazier things.
Hey,
I mean, this season
hit the over in SEC wins in the SEC tournament now.
No. That doesn't. No. That does not count. No, we're not doing that.
Regular season?
Oh, it's okay. Regular season.
Hey, you got 3 chances, Chris, to get one for you.
Yeah, they do. Be interesting. Harrison, let's knock out these two really quickly. Let's go Mississippi State, Ole Miss. State takes 2 of 3. Evan Sierra, the big hero in game 2 with 15 strikeouts. Love the fact that game 3 was Saturday night, the way they moved the schedule around. Ace Reese, Sawyer Reeves, Bryce Chance, they all come alive offensively. We had great defense by the Diamond Dogs. The Dogs are officially hot, Harrison. What if I would have told you before the season, at this point in the season, Mississippi State and Tennessee would have the same number of SEC series conference wins as each other? You wouldn't have believed me, but they do.
No, Chris, you know what I would have said? Wow, that Omaha Dark Horse pick of yours was pretty good.
It's still alive, by the way. It's still alive.
It is still
the Diamond Dogs are
fighting Justin Parkers.
The fighting Justin Parkers, Harrison, are officially hot. Great weekend. It was just college baseball, if you could bottle it up. College baseball in a nutshell. Ole Miss, Mississippi State at the Dude at night in a rubber match. I mean, you just can't draw it up better than that. Your thoughts on State taking 2 or 3?
I think it was predicated on that. And I was like, I don't expect Mississippi State to win this series after losing game 1. I think in the fashion that they did. And again, we talk about how important it is for them to win Pico Con starts. I mean, he looks like a shell of himself in the talent that, we know he is and how elite of a pitcher he is. I think, one of the most talented, guys in the country in the SEC for sure, pitching on the mound wise and like just stuff and what he means for his team, especially. But to turn around on, game 2 and respond after giving up a 10 spot in game 1, I believe it was, to limit this offense to 1 run. And it was in the 9th inning for Ole Miss. I mean, Evan Sierra, dude looked like a magician out there. Almost 2 Ks an inning, Chris. 15 punchies for our guy Micah in 8 innings, saving the bullpen. You only have to use Ben Davis for 1 inning, and obviously he gives up the 1 run. But I mean, if you can get big time starts like that, I mean, not even like that great of starts, you can get like, 5 innings, less than, 3 or less runs from him or better. Mississippi State's going to be a tough team to play in the postseason. When you have Pico Khan, who on average pitches very well at a high level and gives you a chance every time he's on the mound to go out and win a game. If you can add to that depth with a start like Evan Sierra just did, oh my gosh. And do that, Chris, against your rival. And not any rivalry, but Mississippi State, Ole Miss.
And a rival that pounded you in game 1, by the way.
Yeah.
You respond and take the loss.
On your own turf.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things. I think it was like, that's the turning point in the series. It was like, they can build off that. They have all the bullpen they'll basically need, for it. And, it's like, can Carson Ligon give us enough, and keep us in the ball game for his start? And he goes out there and throws 5 innings. I mean, the walks are what really killed him, even though he only get 1 run, but the bullpen just holding the line enough. I know Nate Williams gave 2 runs, but it's like, you just trust the offense enough around, Ace Reese and Sawyer Reeves, and, Bryce Chance around them. Just give them a chance, keep them in the game. And Mississippi State's a team that, I think has been playing well in close games and responding well, in situations and, following games up like they did in game 1. And, I think it's very much predicated on Justin Parker and how he's managing and leading this team as a head coach, as the interim.
Yeah, dogs are playing loose. Dogs are red hot. I agree with you, Harrison. This is going to be a team nobody will be excited to see in their regional. For Ole Miss, again, tough place to play, tough place to win. This is, I don't know, they're a hard to figure out team for me. Love Hunter Elliott. I thought Riley Maddox bounced back big time. He just got out-dueled by Evan Sierra. Had a pretty good start, but
yeah, Ole Miss is such an up and down team for me. They're
so up and down.
And I think they have a low floor and a higher ceiling. It's very widespread what you're going to get week out of them. A lot of talent on that roster too. But they play exactly like Oklahoma. They really do. And it's obviously, let's talk about that, because it's like, what do you make of Oklahoma now? To segue again.
Kentucky great segue. Kentucky sweeping Oklahoma. None of us, saw this coming. Harrison, thoughts on the Cats?
Especially after Kentucky got swept by Mississippi State.
Yeah, Cats coming into form at the right time, though, with the postseason just around the corner.
To do so on the road, too. I mean, talk about how important it is to win 1 on the road, take 2 at home. You go on the road is sweet. Out west. I'm going to say west, obviously, in regards to the SEC. But it's one of those things in which you do it. That's what I said. It's the exact same thing as Mississippi State. You have to go out there. Oklahoma has to go out there and win Kyson Witherspoon starts. And they haven't done that as consistently as they need to. And it's really put them in a tough position the rest of the series. And Kyson obviously struggles. I think it was his lowest out. Like, I don't want to say his worst time, but like, obviously a letdown outing compared to what he's been producing week in, week out. But his lowest strikeout outing of the year with only 4 Ks in 5 innings. That's less than 1 per inning. I don't think he's ever done that this season so far. And it's like, Kentucky's just that scrappy team that's just going to make every series, and I said it earlier, every series so hard to play in and so hard to, kind of get them out, just kind of the style in which they play and, under the radar in which their pitching staff is, and it's one of those things that, yes, you don't get good outings from Nick McKay, and you don't get, really good outings from Nate Harris. I mean, I think Nate Harris pitched well, and he obviously pitched well enough to, give you a chance to win the game, but it's one of those things they don't overly excel at everything. They just do the majority, if not, a lot of things at a very high floor. But I just don't think they're ceiling super high. But like, then they just go out and surprise you this. You get swept at Mississippi State. You get run ruled in game 1, you get walked off in game 2, and then you lose game 3. But then you go on the road, or you play Oklahoma at home, and it's just flip a switch. Like, winning the SEC is hard, Chris. And, Oklahoma trying to go on the road and do that, but you got swept on the road, how tough that is. But you got to give kudos to Kentucky for the style which they play, which is so untraditional in bouncing back and responding from last week to this week and taking care of business at home at KPP, Kentucky Proud Park, Chris. Not one of the most hostile environments, but, it's their home field and they love playing there and they play really well there. And, Ben Cleaver goes in Sunday with an opportunity to sweep Oklahoma, a team that's, been ranked overwhelmingly majority of the season. And he goes out there and shoves because we don't know what we're going to get from Malachi Witherspoon on a consistent basis. Even though James Hitt pitched really well following him, it's just like the amount of production in just Kentucky just piecing together hits, just single doubles hitting. It feels like hitting you to death, just death by 1,000 cuts. We talked about that a bunch with Kentucky. So impressive from them. And, not a team that, you really want to play a series against because it's so untraditional, how scrappy they are and fighting in every game.
Yeah, going to be a nuisance as a 2 seed or what have you, maybe a 3. I think a 2. And probably more importantly, we mentioned Ole Miss too, Oklahoma, same huge hit to their hosting chances.
Absolutely.
I think these were big weekends for both fall, but especially Oklahoma getting swept. A big knock to their hosting chances. Harrison, you got to run, or you want to stick it out for the
we can stick it out real quick.
Last little bit. Okay, we got to get this ad read in again. Of course, was brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We'll knock this out real fast. The wait is over. Baseball season's finally here. You can start the season strong on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now FanDuel is celebrating the return of baseball by giving new customers $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel's got so many ways for you to get in on the action, from hits to steals to home runs. They've got a lineup filled with all your favorite bets, or if pitching is more of your thing, FanDuel's got a deep bullpen of bets from strikeouts to shutout innings. So when you place your first bet, it can be on almost anything, and if it hits, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official partners of Major League Baseball. Must be 21 and up at present select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up at present DC. First online real money wager only, $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bet. Expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Harrison, that being said, let's keep it moving. Quick thoughts. D1 Baseball's latest top 25. LSU, the new #1 team in the country. We've got 9 SEC teams ranked. LSU 1, Texas 3, Auburn 6, Arkansas 8, Vandy 9, Georgia 10, Tennessee 17, Bama 18, and the Florida Gators are back in the top 25 at 23. Your thoughts?
I don't know if you're going to like my thoughts, Chris, because I still think Georgia Tech should be ranked after picking up a big series win.
I don't hate that.
Against Louisville. I mean, you're top 20 Louisville, and you pick up a huge series win after getting blown out 16-2 in game 1. You go one hit game 2 and one hit game 3. You almost have 2 no-hitters in the same day against a top 20 team. A little disappointing in that, I think, for me. I mean, I thought they were in that kind of 26 to 28 range. If you were to add, 25 to 30 rank, I thought Georgia Tech was there. Thought they would have cracked the top 25 at like a 23, 24 maybe. But, I mean, Northeastern's obviously a really good team. They've been playing some of the best ball in the country as well. Just, I think they're at, 40-something wins now. It's unbelievable. I think Florida cracking the top 25, I think it was predicated on just how incredible of a season they've been having the past 3 weeks, and just the turnaround, and obviously winning at #1 in a huge way. Troy still hanging around there. West Virginia dropping a huge series, I think, to Kansas State. So I thought they should have dropped a little lower. I think Tennessee, Alabama's a tough one to rank right now, just with how they're playing. Duke's been playing incredibly well. They've, I think, won, I want to say, I'm just not going to use a round number. I think it's like 75% of their games recently. Past couple weeks, they've been playing really hot baseball. Georgia's an interesting one to rank, which was how inconsistent they've been playing and on the road. And I thought Vandy could have been maybe a little higher, but it's like, I don't think you put them above Arkansas, but I thought Arkansas could have been a spot or 2 higher. But overall, I mean, nothing crazy. I think the craziest thing, I thought Georgia Tech should have been ranked. So maybe a little biased, but just with their season as a whole and how they've played overall. But you see Clemson dropping too.
Yeah. No bias at all, Harrison. Certainly you're not biased to Georgia Tech. I mean, I got no issue with the rankings.
Hey, we might have 2 mid-major hosts. Looks like we're going to have 2 of them.
Yeah. How about Coastal at 11? UC Irvine at 12. I got, LSU being 1. I do think it's interesting. I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but I think if you're a fan of the ACC, God forbid, you do have to wonder, like, at some point, what's it going to take for us to have a #1 team? Because Florida State, they were 2, they win their series, and LSU jumps them anyways. And again, they beat a much better team. Florida State beat Cal, right? But
at Cal, though, right? I think it was at Cal.
Dude, Cal has like 6 conference wins. So, I mean, but it is funny. They're like, what is it going to take? And I know LSU fans, they're sitting out there saying, we wouldn't mind not being #1, because every time somebody gets ranked #1, some shit goes sideways.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for that is Florida State's strength of schedule is 38th versus LSU's 25th. I think that's a big thing in their non-conference.
For sure.
I think Florida has a better non-conference RPI at 17 versus LSU's 32nd, but I think it's more so. I mean, quad one wins, they're about neck and neck. Florida State's 11-7 in quad one, and LSU's 13-10. So
glad to see the Gators back in the top 25 as well. Tennessee still floating at 17.
Actually, I will say this for Florida State, that series against Virginia getting canceled, that was
huge. Killed their RPI. Tennessee still at 17 to me is kind of interesting. I'm surprised they haven't fallen farther given just how long they've been playing poor baseball. But like you said, Harrison, I think it's a little bit of a benefit of the doubt that Tony.
Yeah, I mean, they're 15th in RPI, Chris, right now. They're, strength of schedule is 26th in the country. So it's not that. I think it's just a recency bias with how bad they've been playing more so. I'll say, Chris, Georgia's strength of schedule, number 5 in the country, RPI number 1, non-conference RPI number 1. So Georgia's at 10, though, so you can make a case a lot. So either ways for a lot of teams, I think, like I said, Georgia Tech, 23rd RPI rank, 35 strength of schedule. And they have 12 quad one wins. They're 37-15. So,
yeah. Hey, Harrison, that being said, let's take a look at the midweek. Our final midweek slate, by the way. Midweeks matter. Last one. We've got Tennessee, Belmont, South Carolina, Winthrop, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, Auburn, Jacksonville State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Martin, and Mississippi State and North Alabama. Do any of those 6 games do anything for you? And by the way, shout out and respect to the midweek. We've had a great time in the midweek.
Shout out to midweeks.
Final one. Final midweek for us.
Tip the cap to them. I'd say the biggest one for me, Winthrop, South Carolina.
Interesting.
Because I don't know what you're going to get out of South Carolina. I really don't. I don't know what to expect.
Prepping to face their old skipper. Or prepping to face his old team, I should say.
Really? Of the 6, I don't really know what you're going to expect of them. I mean, I have more faith in Ole Miss hosting MTSU. Or sorry, not MTSU, Tennessee Martin. So, I don't know. And the way Auburn's playing it, it's just Jacksonville's a good team. It's just the way Auburn's playing right now at home, especially. It's tough to, bet against them. But,
yeah, Auburn, Jack State could get interesting. But I think it's going to be one of the more sleepy midweek slates, which,
something's going to happen, Chris.
Something weird's going to happen. There's no question. Harrison, that being said, let's close it out with a few questions here. We'll run through these because I know you got to run. Daily Joy says we do not need to talk about LSU being number 1. Again, they're believing in the jinxes right now, Harrison. They didn't even want us to talk about them being good today. They'd rather us just skipped over the series. So Texas Rock says Arkansas is too low. Fair. I mean, I think I still think they're one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the country. So I will give you that. And our Texas still being at 3, giving them the benefit of the doubt a little bit, I think, as well.
They need Max back for a middle bump. That's for sure in the lineup.
Yes, they do. I want to highlight this one. Drake the Giant. The dogs are hot. The Diamond Dogs are hot. Yeah, there's no question. We done messed around. Let them get hot. So I'm trying to scroll through. We got so many comments here. It's hard to highlight all of them that I want to highlight. A lot of, as you can imagine, Harris, a lot of shit talking in the comments today.
Especially to you, Chris. Just a floating head. Floating head with the football helmet.
Can't mix it up with some camo today?
Chinook, I told him we jumped on the show. I like the camo. I thought it was cool.
Just mix it.
You got more flair. I got more consistency.
I've got more flair in my closet than you would think. So Randy Jones says, CP, there is magic in the box. Randy, appreciate you tuning in. It's always a pleasure. And yes, there is absolutely magic in the box. We got another Randy, a little Randy on Randy rivalry. It's War Eagle. So
3 words, 1 sentence. Who are you taking right now? Arkansas, Auburn in the series. Neutral site.
Where's it? Okay, neutral. Ooh,
in Hoover.
Question.
Let's say in a series in Hoover.
Listen, I mean, I wouldn't be standing on business if I didn't say Auburn, seeing as I had them number 1 in the power rankings. Give me Auburn. I'll roll Auburn. We got to start thinking about them in that light, man. I think we have to.
All right.
We got to start thinking about them in that light.
I might lean Arkansas, just a higher ceiling, I think.
But no doubt. No, I don't doubt that.
I just think a deeper starting rotation that has higher upside than Auburn's rotation, but Auburn's just playing such good baseball and clutch baseball on all facets. So that's a 51-49.
Yeah,
for me.
Fair enough. Our guy Chinook, who let the Tigers of Como get hot. A&M did. That's who. A&M did. Let's see.
I'm just glad Bart showed up.
Yeah, Gigambart. I'm glad to see Gigambart's doing well, or at least is here. I don't know if he's doing
This
well.
is how Bart spells Missouri.
Misery. Yeah,
Misery.
it's
shout out to Bart for showing up though, even though he was late. But I was late, so it's okay. He's still here.
Gigambart now living vicariously through Oklahoma, needs Sooners to take care of business this weekend because, of course, they play Texas. So, Gigambart, so you can fire your coach and go on to still win games. Noted.
Hey, Chris, shout out to I will say I don't know if you saw, but Enrique Bradfield Jr.
He was talking that talk.
Dansby Swanson talking some jaw.
Yeah.
I respect it. I love when the alumni chip in. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking that talk. Vandy boys were getting after it. So that being said, Harrison, anything else? We can go ahead and wrap it up. I know you got to run. I got to run as well. By the way, last windup from this studio. Next one will be in this state. We'll be in the Nashville studio. Very excited. Looking forward to it.
And Chris is currently taking bets on if you will have a baseball helmet with an SECU logo on it in Nashville for the next show.
Let's take bets. Why not? We left this studio.
Hey, it might be a better bet than under 3.5 wins for Missouri in conference.
It might be. It might be. You never know. Harrison, really good stuff today, man. Again, appreciate you all tuning in. The last Monday show of the regular season. Harrison, we still have many to go, so I don't want to over-exaggerate this, but the regular season's been a blast with you, my friend. We've got one more weekend, but guys, in the meantime, MIZ, and let's enjoy the midweek, man. One more midweek slate. One more midweek slate. Come on, let's get weird.
Why not? Get weird. Let's get weird in the midweek. Midweek
weird in midweek. Yeah, midweek matters.
Midweek madness. Let's have it.
Midweek madness. Guys, again, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank y'all so much. Stay tuned to big updates from us, including where we'll be this time next week. Going to be a special windup next Monday for you. But anyways, stay tuned. All the content, we'll keep you in the loop. What's going on in the meantime, guys? Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast where we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Harrison Fan, I'm Chris Phillips. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show, the best college baseball show on the internet. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you all on Thursday.